are live. Hi everybody, this is Devin Galladay, the Mystical Solutions to Modern Love, and I am excited to be here. This is kind of like a test and a little bit of a change. I'm actually back on Google Hangouts, but I'm using a new software that will allow viewers to interact. To be quite honest with you, I am not using it full scale. I'm not a tech person, but I'm trying different things because technology is challenging. Anyway, if you've been following us, we've been doing a series on the Tree of Life, and we just came out of talking about love and relationship savers, and every week we talk about love and relationships and transformation and Kabbalah and mystical solutions. And I had something that was sort of bothering me. And it kind of goes a long way back. And I've been doing this now for 6 months. I have actually my 50th birthday is coming up. So I've been a little bit reflective the last a couple weeks. And so let me tell you a story first off. And the story goes like this. I was on a radio show, I'm going to say about 9 months ago. The host was great. The co-host was great. Everything went really well. And when I showed up, I had like a little stack of index cards. Well, it was on radio, so if there was like a thing or something I needed to say, I could, I'm sure, quickly go to the index card. Of course, that never happened. And we sort of talked about everything. We talked about hockey and sports and bounced around, and part of it was my problem and my fault because I was trying to talk about a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people, and it's part of process, it's part of life. You just try to figure this out as you go, and much like technology. And so I had this hour-long conversation, and really my hope was that we would talk about love and Kabbalah. And we did. And when finally the opportunity arrived where I could talk about love and Kabbalah, I didn't do a really great job of it. That's for one. Two, you know what? I'm going to do something a little weird right now. I am going to change the audio on this because it's a little hot. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. And so what ended up happening was that when I finally had this opportunity to talk about love and relationships and specifically Kabbalah and try to explain it, and the host was interested in that, I did the best job I could in this little block of time. And he said, "Oh, so it's just doing the opposite of what you think you should be doing." And I don't remember what my response was. It wasn't genius. And it sort of rubbed me the wrong way, not because he had done something inherently wrong. I mean, actually, I think he was doing his very best to understand the information that I was giving him. But it sort of stuck with me. It sort of stuck with me in this negative way. And I was trying to think of, well, what could I do to make it more enthusiastic, more exciting? Because when I discovered this information about Kabbalah, and keep in mind, it was presented in a different way, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I was like, when I started studying this stuff, and when I really started learning Kabbalah, and when I really started delving into it, it was like my life changed dramatically. It changed in huge ways. I mean, so all of a sudden things went from looking terrible to looking unbelievably wonderful. And I wanted to scream from sort of like the church tower to say, "Oh my gosh, I have learned this thing, and I want you all to learn it with me, and I want you all to join me." And by the way, I have sort of like some notes here that I'm going to try to get to. I'm really terrible about getting to all the things that I want to get to. So I'm going to probably refer to this a little bit. I hope you don't mind. But so I wanted to be able to take my enthusiasm and I wanted to give it to you and have you go, "Oh, wow, that is unbelievable." And so anyway, these series of thoughts over the, I'm going to say probably the last 6 weeks was sort of like, that, I've explained Kabbalah to some people where they're like, oh, this is unbelievable. And other people's less so. And so I was trying to figure out what that is and why that is. And I think I think I've figured out, I think I've cracked the code of why that is. If you've been following, you understand that most of the stuff we deal with at the top of the tree deals with ideas that are about unity. And when we deal with the things at the bottom of the tree, we get caught up in the details. And so part of the details and part of the things that we do is we tend to, we have these two choices of looking at quality or looking at quantity. When we look at quality, we deal with sort of like all the little details. We deal with all the little minutia. And I think the hope is that, and I think this is what I saw in that host. Again, he did absolutely nothing wrong, but it was sort of like, oh, now I'm starting to get it. Me personally, like, so from that standpoint, he was really, really helpful, is that he wanted to get to the quantity. Okay, so what is this thing? All right, yeah, we're dealing with God. Yeah, we're dealing with the mysteries of the universe. Yeah. But what's the thing? What's the quantifiable thing? What's the list of things? And so, when I was talking with a mentor of mine recently, and he was quick to point out that, it's not a list of tasks that we accomplish in order to find enlightenment. Our happiness, our contentment, our peacefulness, our joy at the world comes from something else. And so that's kind of why I wanted to create this class, and I'm doing it a little bit impromptu, because I really was like, oh, that's the thing that I wanted to talk about. And that's the thing that's sort of been missing to what I've been doing. Like, I have all of this information about Kabbalah and about living life, and I've done it really successfully. And I feel as though that when I'm presenting some of these ideas, that I'm trying to give you a list. I'm trying to give you a series of tasks that if you do these tasks, thumbs up, you'll be happy and you'll be wonderful. But that really isn't life. It's not really the quality part of life. And so when we talk about quantity, we're talking about sort of like the numbers. And one of the things that I was doing just in this whole journey over the last 6 months of doing these videos, when actually I'm a writer, like I should not be on air with like this hair. I look like the Joker. So really the thing that inspired me to kind of like, oh, come check this out, was my genuine enthusiasm of having the results and how I did it. And I want to share it with you because I want you all to have better relationships and more love and all kinds of wonderful stuff in your life. I want you to get beyond the illusions of this bottom part of the tree, and I want you to get to the good stuff at the top about the love and the relationship and the peace and the contentment and the satisfaction. And so I realized that one of the things that really brought it alive for me is that there's an innate quality in my heart that I believe that there's an order to the universe. Call it God, call it the cosmic ooze, the higher self with a capital S, the angels, whatever it is, that there is an overriding purpose and organization to the world. And that organization, for me, when I get to fit in that, that is for me very, very exciting. This does not mean you have to be a Christian or a Baha'i or some religious dogma. It's that what's happening is a purpose. And so the way I look at it is, or the way I can describe it here, and what we've talked about a lot, again, I'm going to go back to this tree as I have for weeks on end to kind of give you a visualization. When we talk about the up part of this tree, we're talking about sort of like the notions of the divine. And when we talk about this bottom part of the tree, we're talking about the fragmentation of that whole. So you just have lots more pieces, and part of the illusion that we deal with is getting mired down by the pieces rather than the goal of unity and love and all those things that we want to give to each other, but sometimes have a difficult time in doing. So the tapping of the miraculous is exactly that. How do we get into this place where we're not worried about the lists of things that we do, when we're not worried about the stuff that we think we're supposed to accomplish? Like, the best way I can describe it is the Ten Commandments is a great list of things to aspire towards, to be sort of like part of this world, part of this divine. But it is not the appreciation for all of the magic that we have around us. Like if we do the Ten Commandments, great, you'll probably keep your nose clean, you probably aren't going to get into major trouble, most of your life will go along how it's intended to unfold, and isn't that wonderful? But it's not connecting with the real excitement that is the world. And that's what tapping into the miraculous is about. Great. I'm so glad that we have these rules that will help us lead our lives. And I think all religions have a set of rules, but it isn't the awe-inspiring thing that brings us great joy. And so why does all this matter? I'm going to get to that in a minute, so hold tight with me for a couple more minutes, and then we'll kind of tie all these pieces together. Is that when Kabbalah, for me, and this is true in my humble opinion of any sort of mysticism, of any sort of magical thing, whether you are, if you are a true believer in God, if you are a believer in the harmony of the universe, if you are even a believer in your highest self, the exciting part about what we do in sort of like elevating our life in terms of our spiritual evolution and part of our spiritual growth is that it's possible, is that we live in a world, like for me, really what is the miraculous? The miraculous, and I wrote it down, is being part of the spectacularness, the tiniest cog, and being the biggest power that allows us to be part of harmony. Like, there was a point when I actually saw my daughter take her first steps, and it was exhilarating. It was like and it wasn't something that I could put into words. It's still not something I can put into words, but it was like all my hope and all my inspiration and all the things that I would want in the world in terms of joy and satisfaction manifested in her little step and a half before she fell straight down. Just straight on her bottom so she didn't hurt herself. But it was a moment in time that I cherish, that when she does something, like she accomplishes the goals that she wants to accomplish, I feel exhilaration, because there is, in that moment, I am filled with joy at her accomplishment. Like, I know that she was going to walk. I know that she was going to do a lot of things. But the joy that I felt, that's the thing that tends to be missing from the tasks that we create in our life, which are like, hey, I'm very busy, so just get to the point. Get to the thing so I can just appreciate it and just do the thing, and then I can find my enlightenment. Or I can accomplish my goals, or I can do whatever it is that I think that I want. And so when we talk a lot about the tree of life, and when we talk a lot about Kabbalah, this unity notion is sort of the thing that we have to strive to attain, that we can really truly appreciate. It's the sort of like the tasks at the bottom of the tree. Well, I'll just do these tasks, and eventually I'll just find my enlightenment, and I'll just get to this place, and everything will be hunky-dory. But what I find that I'm missing, and part of the process that I've been doing here, and I know that I'm a little all over the place, so again, bear with me, we're getting there, is that when I am sort of just doing the tasks, like part of the tasks of this show, of this presentation, is technology. I don't get it. I don't even care. I don't care about the technology. I've been forced to learn because I have, like, right in front of me now, I have my computer, which is broadcasting to Google Hangouts, which will then automatically go to YouTube, which will automatically send a feed signal to Webinar Jam to let you know about the replay and where you can sign up, etc., etc. and I have a camera behind it that's recording me as a backup, plus I have this lav that is going to record the audio, so it'll give you the best digital experience possible. So I will re-upload that later and then send to my network of people who hopefully will love this show through Aweber. That's all about the bits and pieces. And then, of course, I want you to click. I want you to see this. I want you to have this experience. And so what it does is, while I'm concentrating on clicks and likes and all of this technology, that's not the thing. The thing is that the world works in perfect harmony, even when we think it doesn't, especially when we think it doesn't. The earth is going around the sun, and the sun is going around something else, and there is a force that is making the flowers open and close at day and night. And I know that we can say, well, but there's science. But science is just our ability to label the things that we're observing and testing them to see if it'll work again. Yes, every time the sun comes up, the flower is going to open to get its nutrients. Why does it happen? I don't know. And that's the thing that is miraculous. That's the thing where I go, oh my gosh, this is so incredible, super deluxe, wow. And that's the thing when I say, when I'm aligning myself to that power, that extraordinary thing that allows me to walk and talk and go have, my experience and interact and communicate, is miraculous. And it's that piece that when it's explained right, that makes all of these other things that we do, make all of these lists that we go out to accomplish important, because it's a miracle that we get to do them. It's a miracle that we have these systems in place that we can go explore. And it's that appreciation, it's that thing that fills me with electricity. That's the thing that when I go and practice Kabbalah, my life changes, and I get to see the progress I've made, or I get to see the progress that other people have made, is amazing. Why do we grow? How do we grow? How do we change? Is utterly stupendous. So when I consciously do something against what my nature might be, which might be eat all of the chocolates, which might be yell and scream at people when they don't do what I think I want them to do. When things happen in my world that I don't care for, and then I somehow make a choice to do something different, even though there's a part of me screaming inside, no, you have, just go yell, go punch them in the face as hard as you can. Go yell at my wife, go do this disorderly thing that's going to cause aggravation in somebody else's universe in order to make me feel better. When I don't do that, and I'm connected to that universal thing, the universe, for some reason, rather than taking a reaction, like, okay, I'm supposed to be a good person, so I'm not going to do these things, I'm going to follow the rules tend to not pay off in the same way. But when I'm connected to this notion of the miraculous, I feel it. So when we give the essence of Kabbalah as being, oh yeah, just do this opposite thing that you think you want to do, and you do something else, and you're doing it with purpose and commitment, even though you're going against your sort of like your animal nature, there is progress made. There's your spiritual growth. It has to be about the purpose. I mean, for me, it is about God. It is about praying. It is about meditation. It doesn't have to be for you. You can still attain to your highest self and really get into these ideas that I accomplish these things that go against my basic nature, which separates me from animals. Like if I walk into the room too quickly, the cat's going to jump up and run away. Even though I've walked into the room 1,000 times, the cat's going to jump up, be startled, and run away. It may regroup quicker, but its natural tendency is to not go, oh, that's a familiar person who feeds me. So that is the miraculous. So how do you tap into it? And that's the important part. Is that how do you tap into this miraculousness is where you get to share this enthusiasm and this divinity with other people and recreate it. So when we talked again about the quantitative, which is about our lists, and the qualitative, The qualitative is the art. You can call it God. If you get inspiration from God, freaking great. If you get inspiration from art, great. So there's two ways to look at this God thing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about some of the ways to tap in the miraculous and some of the things that are going to kind of backfire. Remember, we're down here in the physical world, which means that we're going to deal with the illusion of things. So that means our knee-jerk reactions are going to be one thing, our desire to follow the rules or not follow the rules, versus the art of it, the quality of art. So the higher quality of art we can attain, the more likely when we take action based upon that art, the more likely we're going to be fulfilled, feel love, security, safety, all that sort of thing. And by the way, like when I was preparing for this, I was feeling all kinds of anxiety because I was sort of worried about, well, who's going to see it and who's going to click on it and who's going to maybe like it or not like it. And that's not the goal. It's never been the goal. Like when I've taught Kabbalah, I've sometimes taught to, people, 10 people in a class, not a big group, but when those people come over and say, oh, there's a difference to the quality of my life, that's the goal. The goal is how do we become one? How do we bring each other together? That's my goal anyway. So getting back to it. So if you are like a person who really believes in God, then delve into the notions of what that means, of how big and extraordinary and unknowable and unnameable and all-powerful that is. That's exciting stuff. Dive into that. If you are religious, like I think religion boils down to sort of like trust God and do your thing and revel in that, all those miraculous gifts. The downside, or the thing that pulls you away from that, are the rules of the religion. I'm not saying you shouldn't do them. I think the rules are there for a reason. They keep your nose clean. But the miraculous, where the true change comes from, is the actual divinity of that thing rather than the set of rules that come in that package. Rules are great, and sometimes the universe gives you all kinds of curveballs that say the rules aren't perfect for this moment in time. Sometimes you just have to do what you need to do, and if you do it with that connectivity, I think you're working in the right direction. So what are some of the other things that you can do if it's not religion, if it's not sort of God? Then it is art, music, literature. Like there was a point in time when, when books are new, like I know I'm reading a great book when I want to read it slowly because I don't want it to end. I've read passages by Mark Twain where it was like, oh my God, this is absolutely brilliant. Same thing with Emily Dickinson, where it's like you read something and she did so many miraculous things. I mean, I do. Like I think her writing, I think Mark Twain's writing was divinely inspired. So when I'm reading what she did at a time and place 180 years ago, or pardon me, 130 years ago, her writing for me is inspired and still relevant today, 130 years later. Still relevant, Mark Twain, 100 years ago. Because it's speaking certain levels of truth. So I don't want to just skim through great literature. I don't want to skim through I remember going to Italy a number of years ago, and everybody was like, oh, you have to see the Sistine Chapel. It's, of course, one of the legendary works of art of all time. So there was a plus side and there was a downside to that visit to the Vatican and its museum, was that when we finally got in the museum, a whole lot of people ran as quickly as possible to get a good position for the Sistine Chapel. And in so doing, they missed all artwork that you're never going to see again. It's absolutely magnificent. Now, once people were in the Sistine Chapel and looking up at the ceiling, a lot of people were still sort of like talking and not talking, and some people were oohing and awing, but other people were clearly drinking in this incredible amount of artwork. And that's the part. When you take action, we want to have as much of that artwork in our hearts, so when we take action moving forward, we are connected to this spark of divinity or humanity, however you want to define it. So if it's art, if it's literature, find the stuff that really makes your heart sing and connect to it, like consciously, like, oh my, this is incredible stuff. If that doesn't work for you, try meditating. Meditating, I should do a whole series on meditation. It's an incredible gift. It's a conscious point where we say, okay, there isn't reaction. It's a point where we sit down and connect to our surroundings, whether it be to our breath, which is, to some people's belief, our absolute essence, which is amazing. It's life itself. And when we slow down and acknowledge that, lots of wonderful things come into our hearts and minds. If you don't want to meditate, if you don't want God, if you don't want art and literature, try connecting to your family. Try to connect to, like for me, it's certain moments of my daughter's evolution. To watch her grow is amazing. Like she falters along the way. I tend to not see the falters. I see all of my falters, but I don't see hers. So I try to connect to the love that I have for people in my life, my wife, my mother, my aunt. I have some great cousins. I have so many wonderful friends that bring me solace and pleasure. That's what I want to connect. I want to connect to their goodness to find that miraculous. And then when I find it, that's when I take action. If you don't have family, you can't find anything else, then do something for someone else, something that will make a difference. It might be go volunteer at a soup kitchen for a day. It might be sit down and talking to a homeless person. And by the way, I've done these things. There is a certain thing when you start learning about people who've walked paths that are more trudging than ours. There is a lot of light and hope from where people come from and the obstacles that they overcome on a routine basis. And when you feed that excellence, when you feed that desire to help humanity, life becomes a much, much better place. Anyway, that's my suggestion of tapping into the miraculous. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime at devingallaudet.com. We're going to be doing more of this. We're going to be doing more interviews. We're still going to talk about Kabbalah. We're going to get back to the Tree of Life, I promise, because we still have 4 big Sephiroth to go, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malkuth, all exciting stuff that will teach you about the world around you and teach you about yourself. So, hanging tight with the mystical solutions of modern love. Thank you so much for hanging around with me on this special Tapping the Miraculous. And I hope to see you all again real soon. Thanks much.